broadcasting live from the Roanoke Valley of southwestern Virginia. Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Reverend Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Before we get started with today's show, I just wanted to remind you that if you're interested in developing your psychic mediumship abilities or your intuitive skills, that I offer private tutoring one-on-one. We do it by Zoom, which is similar to Skype, and you can see me and hear me, and we have a lot of fun. I also offer some group training options. They are live, interactive web classrooms. I have a 12-week training and certification program. I have 4-week psychic development, advanced mediumship, spirit art, and channeling sessions, the 4-week programs. And I offer a 24-week self-study option that isn't live, but it's reasonably priced, and it's a program that you can purchase in individual units or in monthly bundles or as a whole. And if you do purchase it as a whole, you get a deep discount on the 12-week program, which is the professional psychic mediumship certification training program. So anyway, that's my blah, blah, blah to start our day off. What I'm going to do today is share some readings from Daniel Scranton's book. It's called Channeled Wisdom from Higher Dimensional Beings. The first is called The Illusion of Power. We are the Pleiadian High Council of Seven, and we are pleased to offer you our words of wisdom. They are not in control of anything. That is an illusion of this game that you're playing. The game tells you that there are others who are out there somewhere in powerful positions, and they are calling the shots. The reason we say that you can chalk that up as an illusion is because you're actually creating the entire scenario yourselves. So why would you ever want to fight against your own creation? What purpose would it serve to fight the power when you are, in fact, the powerful being who is creating the illusion of power in the hands of others? If you're going to awaken to anything, awaken to that. There is a group who would like to be in control of everything on planet Earth, and you have given that group many different names, but they are only as powerful as you create them to be. And as soon as you stand in your own power and acknowledge yourself as the creator beings that you truly are, you can remove that illusion. You can stop playing that game. You can stop anytime you like. You can start by taking your attention off of them and what they are doing. Instead, place your attention squarely on yourself and what you are doing. What is your vibration? Are you in your heart? Are you being present? You can start with the simplest intention. The intention is to recognize yourself as the ones with all the power. 7 billion empowered humans certainly have the ability to change the world for the better, no matter what the ones who have been given the illusion of power are going to do next. They are afraid of one thing, and that one thing only, and that is that you will discover that the power lies within each and every one of you. We are the Pleiadian High Council of Seven, and we are very fond of you all. That is all. Well, the first image that came in my mind as I read Daniel Scranton's Illusion of Power segment there is that of the ruby slippers in The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy was lost in a land unfamiliar to herself, and it was full of new creations and beings, sort of like the awakening of our consciousness. And she had inherited the ruby slippers when her house fell on the Wicked Witch of the East. And she took the ruby slippers and they fit her magically, perfectly. And throughout the movie, the Wicked Witch of the West was trying to take her slippers from her. And the rule with the ruby slippers was that they couldn't be taken from her. They had to be willingly given. So the Wicked Witch of the West was always trying to manipulate through fear, domination, and intimidation tactics Dorothy to give up the ruby slippers so that she could be the powerful one. And of course, at the end of the movie, as most of you are familiar, Dorothy realizes that she had the power all along when Glinda the Good Witch tells her that all she has to do is click her heels 3 times and say there's no place like home, and that she had that power within her. And that reminds me a lot about the dynamic between good and evil. It reminds me of the fact that, and I don't mean evil like, oh my God, we have to be afraid of it, but there is a continuity of existence. There is a spectrum of being that goes from low vibrational to high vibrational. Even piano music, the scale on a piano, or the colors of the rainbow, or a diurnal cycle in the daytime going from day to night. We have in this physical world a duality. And so in the spectrum of existence, us being in probably the most dense, other than maybe a black hole, dense energy of the physical manifestation, as we go out of body and into the higher realms one by one, we become lighter and lighter and lighter, that lightness of being as we lift our focus and our energy higher. Also, that occurs, of course, upon transition. So the secret that he was alluding to doesn't just apply for physical principalities and political authorities, etc., but it also applies to the non-physical realm of spirit. And that secret is that you have the right to occupy your own body, your own mind, your own will. And the reason that a dark energy might want to take over somebody's will is because with our will, our thoughts can become things. It's like the activator of the non-physical to physical reality. So don't give your power away. Sometimes in childhood, we grow up and we are in circumstances that we can't control. And as a child, if someone is mean to you or abusive to you, or you're confined, you can't really do that much about it. You can't just go, you know what, I'm done. I'm out, at age 4. And then you just, take your little knapsack. I mean, many of us have tried, but we haven't gotten very far for the most part. So you can't really just leave that situation. And then often when we get into our young adulthood, we end up just trying to make our lives better. And we may be defiant against what we walked away from when we finally did get out of our earlier years. And we think, oh, I'm going to make it now. But often what happens is we use the same dynamic and we create a defense system. And what actually happens is anytime you push against something or war against something, you're attached to it because, like if you were to push against the wall, for instance, where is your hand? Your hand is on the wall. Like you're not separate from the wall, even if you're trying to push the wall back. So we sometimes fail in our effort to create the life that we had hoped to for ourselves. And we have the best intention, but sometimes it just didn't happen the way that we had hoped that it would. Part of the reason that happens is that we're trying to understand the pieces. We're trying to put together all the pieces that didn't fit together before. And so it's much more of an intellectual process. It's like, I'm not going to be like my parent who got divorced, or I'm not going to be like my sibling or a relative that was abusive. I'm going to be different. And we set out in an intellectual endeavor. And our heart is involved too. Absolutely, our heart is involved because inside each of us is a being of light that wants good things, and we all want connection. We all want love. We all want to try to make the best of what it is that we can do with our life. And so what happens when that second tier falls down, when we end up homeless, or we end up abused, or we end up isolated and emotionally frozen in a relationship that we second guess and discover that maybe we didn't really enter into with the right balance? What I have to say to you is that you can retain that ideology, that illusion that other people have power over you, and you can stay exactly where you are. But my dad told me something very valuable when I was a teenager. Maybe I was even a young adult. I don't recall the exact year, but I was going through something very traumatic, and it was very real and very difficult for me. And I had brought it to him for counsel and comfort. And his words were, if you are going to play the victim, be ready to be the victim. And I understood in that not as compassionate statement as I expected or hoped for, that there was a great deal of wisdom in it. It irritated me when I was hearing it for the first time, because that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear, oh, poor baby, I understand. But what I needed to hear was what he told me, which was, if you're going to play the victim, be prepared to be the victim. In other words, if you're going to be the one that has the infirmity of mind, or the infirmity of action, or the infirmity of intent, then be prepared for others to tiptoe around you or to take charge, and be prepared to take on the role of someone who has relinquished their power. And it made me pull myself up by my bootstraps. I wasn't happy about it. Like I said, it wasn't the words of comfort that I had gone to him for, but it proved a life premise, which is we have the ability to choose our role in life. Often we will stay in a relationship, sometimes because we don't realize that we can get out, but often because it's comfortable, because sometimes it's more comfortable to blame someone else than it is for us to take responsibility for what we can change. And often we think we can't change because we have a belief that it has to be a huge thing. You know, it has to be a really incredibly difficult thing for us, that we have to do something huge. But really, changing your life in the little things, sometimes the little things become the big things, because once a small decision is made, it can have major repercussions, but it can also free you to move forward. So taking charge of the little things that you can do. I listened to some people talking about changing their diet. I've been looking at things to motivate myself on YouTube and keep myself moving forward in my quest to be healthier, to eat well, and to restore or create a health for myself that I haven't focused on for a while. And it is working. But this couple of ladies, I think they were probably from New York or New Jersey, they were talking about how when they started, they just decided together to join their forces together and do it. And they had gotten to where they could walk 6 miles a day up a hill. And I think both of them had lost 80 or 100 pounds just by their sheer will that they would do it. But they were talking about changing just one little thing at a time. And that's probably really good advice. Keeping it in the diet scenario, for instance, maybe the first choice might be to do something like intermittent fasting, where you're eating during a window of time, but not really worried too much about exercise or changing your food. Or maybe it's giving up Netflix or watching TV at night because you end up exhausting yourself and falling asleep on the couch because the anxiety that you feel is redirected through the TV and then comes right back to you, because then you're living the stress and adrenaline of the shows that you're watching. Or maybe they provide socialization, but it's not really real socialization. So why not go to bed and then get up earlier and find a little more time in your day? There are other things that are helpful as we change things. Maybe another small change that you could integrate is drinking more water if you're not drinking enough and not staying hydrated, or changing the type of beverage that you drink. Those little teeny decisions help us remember that we actually do have control over our life. And what happens is we create those in individual decisions, and we take step by step, like, oh yeah, I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning. I haven't done that in so long. I usually stay up till 3 or 2 and sleep in till 9:30, 10:30, 11 or whatever. But wow, like I just naturally woke up at 7. What am I going to do with myself? And so maybe the next choice would be, what are you going to do with yourself if you get up earlier? For me, I'm putting on a pot of green tea or detox tea or something like that, no added anything. And as that heats up and I set it aside, once it's made, I go and I stretch out in the morning. And I'm just sort of slowly getting my bones to move in the direction that is different than just sitting in a chair and lying down on a bed or couch, so I'm stretching hips and I'm moving my waist and I'm twisting the spine and stretching the hands, and just, I can't even say that I've gotten to doing yoga yet. It's like some kind of preemie yoga or something that I'm doing. But you know what? I can now sit relatively comfortable like I did as a child, on the floor. And I'm building strength slowly. It's a lot slower than I would like it to be, but it is happening. And then I'm going for most days for a walk. And honestly, if I want to be completely honest with you, my dog is my motivation to go walking, because he lives for one word. He'll look at me. He'll try to catch my eye. And if I say the word yes, oh my God, we are on it. Like, I've given him my promise that I will put his leash on, get in the car, and go for a walk. My other dog, she's not so thrilled about this. She's 13 years old. She's really tiny. She's a Chihuahua Yorkie, and she's not really as game for going for a walk. But you know what? I can tell in her behavior, and I don't take her every day because she's too tiny and her feet wear out a lot faster than his and mine. It's helping her as well because her energy level is rising. So it's the little choices, I guess is what I'm saying. It's the little tiny choices that we give ourselves the ability to feel what makes us happier, the ability to feel what it is do we really prefer, and realizing that we have the choice. Oftentimes we sabotage ourselves. We self-sabotage because we'll put ourselves in a position of like, oh, so-and-so called, and so I'm not going to get to do XYZ this morning because I need to do, ABC this morning. Really feel those choices through. If you are constantly re-engaging with people that drain your energy or that talk without any contact with you, like they can just go on autopilot on their talking and they're not listening to you and they're not responding back and forth or giving you an opportunity to speak, or you don't even feel like speaking because they got it, maybe watch that, because your time is valuable, but more than your time, your energy is valuable. So if you are looking at your day when you wake up, maybe sight down the day and give yourself time. They say the people that grab their phone first thing in the morning and start answering emails and Facebook messages and texts, like I do on occasion, are often unhappier during the day because they're already feeling stressed. But if they can delay that process and just don't look for a while and just get up and sort of be present in your life. You know, when we were kids, I don't know for all of you, but I'm of a generation where we played. You know, we went outside or we walked over to a friend's house or something. You know, I know not all of you had idyllic childhoods, and I'm not saying mine was, but I'm just saying like children observe things. And we get so consumed with screens in front of us. We've got TV screens and computer screens and phone screens and, you know, advertising screens, meaning billboards. And, you know, it's just a lot that we get distracted by. And that takes our focus away from us. That takes our focus off of what's important to us and puts it squarely elsewhere. And so maybe I'm getting around to the point of like reclaim your life, and you can take it back small decision by small decision. And as you do, your satisfaction in life and the ease that it gives you, the de-stressing that occurs as you don't take on something that doesn't feel well, or that you give yourself a couple of extra hours because you didn't stay up so late watching TV, or that you did feed yourself healthy bodies, your healthy food for your body so that you have more energy. That is sort of like, it starts an upward spiral of energy that circles around you and your sense of being and what makes you happy. And what, you know, if we're always looking to other people for our happiness, like, I don't like the way they talk to me, or they're mean to me, or, you know, I always feel small when I'm near them, or, you know, I can't do anything until they do such and such, then we have, like Daniel was talking about in the illusion of power, decentralized our power. We have literally given them the ruby slippers and then complained because we don't have the ruby slippers. But you do have the ruby slippers every day of your life. And I just think it's really important for you to realize that you're not that 4-year-old child anymore. You're not that 8-year-old child or 12-year-old preteen or 16-year-old teen. You're not that young adult anymore. Some of you are young adults, but even you don't have to go down that road of playing the victim, like my dad talked about. You know, you can speak up for your choices if you're in, of course, before you leave your primary household, if you're in either a home life or a marriage or something that is toxic to you and keeps you trapped, then unless literally you are bound and have no physical way of leaving, you do have choices. So first is sometimes the recognition that you do have a choice, that you can make a difference, that you can take that next step, that you might not be able to take step Y, but you can take step A, and tomorrow maybe B, and a week from now, oh my goodness, you could take step C. But to feel that your life is moving forward. Depression is when we feel like we're stuck between two things. It occurs naturally when people are between even two good things. You know, it's just sort of the lull between things. But for us that suffer more profoundly, it's believing that the next thing that's coming isn't going to be good. So why not take tiny steps to make sure that whatever's coming is good? So if you're in a relationship that is crushing your soul, or that you find yourself responding in ways that you don't like to see yourself be that critical person or that controlling person or that angry person or that depressed person, if you don't like the way that you are within that relationship, of course, you always have the choice to change how you view things, but often we're responding to very real things. And so maybe it's time to rethink whether or not you really want to stay there. And, if you feel like your education isn't what it is, what it would be, what you would want, if you feel that you should have gotten your high school diploma, or you should have finished that associate's degree or bachelor's degree, or you've always wanted to go to real estate school, or you want to take some type of certification so that you can learn how to do energy work or psychic mediumship training or something like that. Put it on the docket. Start taking any step necessary to create the possibility for that to actually happen in your life. Is it going to be instant? No. But you know what? Dawn comes gradually. And so in the darkness that you feel, just realize that that darkest before the dawn thing is a real thing. And once you become conditioned to the night and the darkness and the lack of hope and the belief that things aren't going to be positive, it almost seems like dawn will never come. But it's a principle, it's a natural principle that things do get darkest before the dawn, but dawn does come in the morning, and it comes every day. Every day, whatever challenge you have, whatever mindset you're dealing with, whatever heartbreak you're dealing with, dawn comes in the morning. And you can take comfort in that cycle, knowing that there is hope in the forward motion of your life. Depression also happens when we don't believe that we're making progress. Sometimes it's a matter of not just overthinking things too. I saw a great TED Talk, and I wish I could recall the name. It had to do with NASA and a countdown and not overthinking your life. So you can Google that and find that. But she was talking about always wanting to do something. And she watched a takeoff, I guess, of a shuttle. And she decided that the next morning, her plan was to get up earlier and to get the day going. She had several other things, and she was dealing with difficult finances and not enough emotional support around her from people, and just lots of challenges. And that next morning, when she came to consciousness and that alarm bell went off and brought her there to consciousness, instead of lying there and thinking, I'm just going to hit the snooze button, which was something that she had done every day for years or months, she started a countdown, and she just went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. And she found herself awake, and she started walking through that day. And the next morning, when the alarm went off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take off. And it was that discipline of taking that one small step that started leading her forward out of personal depression and depletion, and out of lack of connection and out of poverty, forward in her life. I was thinking, what is that expression? Early to bed, early to rise makes a man or woman healthy, wealthy, and wise. That's been going through my mind too, because there's so many hours that we fritter away on useless conversation, distraction, the screens. I'm not saying you shouldn't listen. I'm glad you're listening today. But use your time wisely. Use your power to take control of your life wisely. Don't give up your sense of control to the will of somebody else because they're more dominant, or they're more aggressive, or they're more greedy, or they're less respectful of people's boundaries. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Let yourself choose things that feel better. And, in martial arts, we were taught, first of all, face your enemy or your combatant, always keep them in front of you. And if things get too close and they grab you or get on top of you, make some distance. Wedge in an elbow, wedge in a knee, do something, shove both hands up so the chokehold is broken, push them back, create space for yourself to breathe. And that's a wonderful example of what we need to do in life when we feel completely overwhelmed and we feel like there's no way for us to make it through the day or through the week, and God forbid the year, is to start making space for ourselves. And we make our space for ourselves through our choices. We make our space through ourselves by the decisions that we do take control of. And we get conditioned too. We're like lions, the old lions that were in the circus, and they used to keep them in small cages, I think in zoos, maybe even today, some of them are in spaces that are too small for them. They pace because they're in a confined space and they're a large animal and they need to move. We need to move. We need to create movement in our life, whether it's intellectual movement or spiritual movement or physical movement. We need to get going. And these lions would pace back and forth, so much so that when the gamekeeper opened the door and put the meat or the whatever for the food for the day in for the lion, that the lion never made the mental connection that that door was open for that time when the keeper came through to provide their sustenance for them rather than them hunting it for themselves. So don't be that lion in the cage. The door is open. If it isn't a door, it's a window. Some of y'all have to, pick up a chair and bust a wall out to get out. And of course, I don't mean that physically, but, they're really under some tremendous strain and some tremendous restrictions in your lives. And I'm a firm believer that we create our own happiness and our own unhappiness in life. We create it by the viewpoint that we take about what we can do in life, this illusion of power that we give to other people when it's actually us that has the power. And I know that we don't feel powerful. I know that, that definition of bravery isn't, a lack of fear, but functioning in spite of it. I know that we don't feel powerful. And probably the only people that think they're powerful are, egomaniacs or something like that, that I am powerful. But maybe it's a good thing to tell ourselves that sometimes. I don't know. But like most affirmations, they're not really effective in changing our energy if they go against our intuitive grain. So, for instance, if you don't feel powerful and you say, I am powerful, it's going to sound kind of weak. And you're going to have to say it a whole lot before it becomes an authentic statement. Or, even looking in the mirror and being able to look at yourself. Louise Hay has a wonderful exercise that she left before her passing. And it's not a newer one. It's one that's been around for a while, but it's to look in the mirror and see yourself, not judge yourself, see yourself and look yourself in the eyes and say, I love you. If you can't say that to yourself, it's something to work on, especially if you expect someone else to be able to say it to you with authenticity and meaning. So maybe practice Louise Hay's mirror exercise too, and look yourself in the eyes. And you can find love for yourself. You may not like your weight. You may not like your skin texture. You may not like some of the things that you've chosen to do in life or had happened to you that were beyond your control. But you can look yourself in the mirror and you can remember that you are a soul of light, a being of light. And you do have that flame of love that you can give. And I'm not talking romantic love. I'm talking about, not like I'm too sexy for my shorts kind of thing, but looking in the mirror with genuine love and compassion that you would be able to give to someone else who's suffering, right? Like you see somebody that's crying or that is going through a hard time, and there's that, or is hungry or homeless or going through a difficult time. You have compassion, unless your mind gets in the way, and then you're like, well, they probably did something to deserve it, and you get all catty and stuff, but that's not attractive, just so you know. And so don't be catty and unattractive to yourself either. Be loving to yourself. Be forgiving to yourself. You are, after all, just a person. We all make mistakes. I've done things that I don't want to ever share publicly or privately in a conversation, things that if I focus on them would drag me down to where I wasn't able to function. Don't do that to yourself. Forgive yourself. You did the best that you could at the time that you did, and that was another day. Today is today. So you don't have to wait till morning to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You don't have to wait till morning to realize that the door is open. And by the way, on planning an exit from a relationship, if it took you a while before you realized that you were trapped, take your time to figure out what's the best way for you to walk out of that relationship. And there is some merit, of course, in speaking up for ourselves. Sometimes that can resolve things, but usually if somebody's being abusive, if somebody's being controlling, and somebody's sort of dominating the situation in terms of emotionally controlling things, talking to them and speaking up for yourself might make you feel a little better about yourself, but it's probably not going to be the solution. Probably the solution is to make distance, to get that knee in there, that elbow, and I don't mean physically, because I abhor the idea of physical violence. I'm just talking about make some space for yourself. Realize that you do have the cage door open, that you can choose to move forward in your life, that maybe today you can't move out of state, but you can put a resume out there. Maybe today you don't have the money that you need, but maybe you can be grateful for the things that you do have, and you can rethink a decision that you might make about how you might spend what you do have. I know from being under financial pressure what it feels like to not have enough. And, if you don't have enough for electric and gas and mortgage or rent or whatever, definitely it's sort of like, well, who cares or what does it matter? But it does matter. So do what you can. Just take one positive step for yourself today. Today, not tomorrow morning, today. And just when you go to sleep tonight, start thinking about what it is that you want in your life. And you're intelligent. You can figure out what small things can be done to help move you in that direction. You can begin the next day by taking one step of action on your behalf. And you don't have to talk about it to, anyone, you can just decide, you can just decide within yourself, I'm going to do this for me. And remember, baby steps, babies, I just visited with my 2 grandchildren. They were just born this year, and wow, there's some brave little critters, them babies, they're like so uncoordinated, and yet, well, actually, they have their own grace to them too, but they just keep trying, One of them is crawling very effectively, and the other one at this time is like doing that sort of sit on your hands and knees and kind of rock or lay on the belly and try to get up on all fours kind of thing. Just keep going. Just keep going. People every day have to reconstruct their lives. They've had an accident. They've had a death. They've had financial ruin. We recover from these things. Don't think that just because things are the way that they are today, or because they've been that way for so many years before that means that tomorrow isn't going to be a bright day. And don't wait for tomorrow to just show up a bright day. Do something about it. And no, it's impossible to change everything overnight, but you can wake up in the morning, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up and do one thing, whether it's your green tea or whether it's promising yourself you're going to block people on Facebook that have been harassing you, or whether it's going to be taking a walk or doing something that's positive for you, so that you can be present in your own life. Don't buy into the illusion of power. Don't give your ruby slippers away. Don't stay confined in your cage and believe that that door is not open, because you're an important person. And you are the captain of your own life. And I don't think it's that far for any of you to take those steps. And when I say not far, that doesn't mean that it wouldn't take weeks, months, possibly years to get where it is you're going. But get on the road, and wear those ruby slippers. And remember, you have the power. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind. And without integrity, you have nothing.